welcome to another video in our screen-free parenting series, because it is such a big topic that you can do a bunch of videos on it. So if you haven't watched my two previous videos, the first video I did was about how we actually became a screen-free family and what happened and how we got here. And the other video was about how important it actually is to limit screen time for your children. So if you haven't watched those two, I will link them in the iCard below, and I will also put it in the description. So make sure you check those videos out as well. But today we are going to talk about 7 ways you can actually start reducing screen time. So what are you going to do to make sure you can eliminate screen time or at least reduce it and spend more time outside? So let's dive into today's video and talk about 7 ways you can actually reduce the screen time of your children. Okay, so before we are gonna reduce any screen time, it is actually really important to talk to your spouse and to determine, 1, why do we actually want to do this? What is our reason for reducing screen time? And 2, you really want to make sure that you have a certain amount of hours that you feel comfortable with. So if you say, okay, I want to reduce screen time, what do you want to reduce it to? Do you want to have them watch an hour a day, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day? What is your limit? And maybe you even decide to say, okay, we're going to say goodbye to screens altogether and we're never going to use them again. Whatever you feel comfortable with, make sure you discuss it with your spouse and that you actually make sure you have that amount set for your family and you know the reason why you do that. And if you have older children, involve them in the process. Have some sort of family meeting and discuss, okay, this is what we want to do. Mom and dad decided to reduce our screen time and we want to invite you into this conversation. And we want to have you involved in, okay, how many hours do we actually want to watch TV as a family? So make sure you, first of all, you definitely need to involve your spouse, but also involve children if they're older. If you have children that are 4 and 2 years old, you don't have to, obviously. But when they're older, they will probably want to have a little bit of a say in it. And especially if they have been having free range in screen usage for as long as they know, then it's definitely important to actually involve them in the process and to explain to them, okay, why do we want to do this? And as a parent, you are ultimately the one that decides, but make sure that they really know your thinking and they can actually see, okay, this is really good for me to actually do this. So before you do anything, make sure you're all on the same page and that you all know, okay, this is why we're doing this. Now, from there, you are going to track, I would say track for a week. How much do you actually use your screen? Because if you say in your family meeting, you come up with, okay, we don't want to use more than 3 hours a day. We don't want to use our screens more than that. Well, maybe you're going to track your hours and you're like, okay, well, actually, we're not doing that bad. We are mostly around the 3-hour mark. Then you know, okay, we don't feel comfortable with how our life is going now. So we can actually reduce our 3 hours to 2 hours a day, for example. But it can also be that you are going to track and then you see, okay, we want to watch TV an hour a day, and you track your days and you come up with the fact that you actually watch more than 4 hours a day. It is really hard to go from 4 hours a day to 1 hour a day in a matter of days. So make sure you actually know, okay, what do we use now? Where are we? And what do we want to reach? And how long are we going to take to get to where we want to be? Because that is actually really important, because you can't change your behavior in a day. You really need to come up with a plan from, okay, this is what we have now, and this is where we want to go, and this is how we're going to do it. So make sure you know how much time you spend in front of screens. So not just TV. Track how many hours or minutes, I don't know how long you are in front of a screen, or your children. Track how long do they use their screen for TV, for entertainment, for schoolwork, how long do they game on their iPads, what do they use their phones for, things like that. Make sure every single screen is included in that, and then go from there. So track for about a week, I would say, because then you know, okay, what do we do on a Monday and what do we do on a Friday? Because that is, I think that is going to be very different. So make sure you track for about a week and then go from there. Now, the first thing I would start with is make sure you don't use screens during meals. So when you have meals as a family, make sure you don't have your screens with you. So don't turn on the TV while you're eating. Sit down at the table, turn off the TV and put your phones away, and start reducing screen time during mealtime, because that is very easy because you're doing something else anyway. So you don't actually really need the TV. It's just going to be some background noise. And you don't really need your phone either, because you can talk to a human that is in front of you. You don't need to look at your phone. So it's going to be the easiest first step, I would say, into reducing screen time, because like I said, you're doing something else anyway. So it's going to be a lot easier, especially for children, to say, okay, I'm doing something else. I'm going to focus on my food. And usually there was TV in the background. Now there's music just playing, and it's probably going to be fine. So start there. And like I said, you're going to take smaller steps, but start with skipping screens during mealtime. And make sure, I'm going to put this out there, make sure that you as a mom or you as a dad actually put your phone away too. Because I literally heard that more often than I thought I would, that people will say, okay, my children are not allowed to take their phone to the table. And then mom is on their phone. Like, that doesn't really make sense. If you decide as a family, our mealtime is screenless, then make sure you all do it to make it a lot easier for your kids. So start by skipping screens during meals. Next up, you are going to slowly reduce screen time for the kids. You tracked your week, you know how long they are in front of the TV, and let's say your children watch an average of 4 hours a day. That is apparently the American average of 4 hours a day. Let's start there. Your child is in front of a TV for 4 hours and you want to reduce it to an hour a day. You're not going to skip 3 hours out of the blue. Cold turkey is not the way I would recommend it. Especially if your children are older, it's going to be a lot harder. If you do it cold turkey, there's going to be a lot of resistance. So I would say go slowly and start setting timers. That is actually my next tip, but start setting timers as well. So when your child is in front of a TV for 4 hours a day, slowly reduce it. So let's say you would reduce it the first day, you are going to take away 15 minutes. So you're going to set a timer for 3 hours and 45 minutes. And just tell them, okay, we are going to slowly reduce our screen time. And if your children are younger, you don't even have to explain. You're just going to say, hey, we're going to set a timer. I really want to quit when the timer goes off. So mommy's going to set a timer just to make sure we don't go over our limit. Set a timer, and when the timer goes off, the screen is turned off and they're going to do something else. And slowly add that up until you come to the point where you feel comfortable. So if you say, I want to do an hour a day, make sure you go slowly. So maybe you do every other day, you take 15 minutes off, or every week you take 30 minutes off, because that will actually go pretty quickly already. Because if you go from 4 to 1 hour, it's only going to take you 6 weeks to go from 4 hours to an hour a day. So if you say, okay, we're going to take off 30 minutes a week, that is totally okay. It's going to take you 6 weeks, but that's okay. Your children need to get used to it, and you don't want to force it on them. It is a decision that you as a mom and a dad made, but you don't have to force it on them. You can do it slowly and you can make them get used to it. Now, a lot of times what I hear is people say, okay, well, that's great that you don't use screens, but what am I going to do with my kids? Well, that is what you're going to have to figure out. You are going to have to do something different with the children to get them away from the screen and let them do something else. So in the first few days or weeks, depending on how independent your children are, it's going to take a little bit more from you. So you might say, okay, we're going to skip 30 minutes of screen time, and during those 30 minutes, we're going to do a craft. So you're going to figure out something and you're going to do a fun craft with the children. Or you say, okay, guys, we're going to turn off the TV. It is 3 o'clock. We're going to go to the park and we're going to have an hour at the park right now. You take the kids out of the house so they kind of forget about the screen. You take them out of the house and you do something different. So make sure you actually know something, that you actually figure out something that your children will love, that is gonna make their mind get away from the screen and let them do something else. We actually had the same thing the other day. My son, he fell down, he didn't feel great, and he said, Mom, can I please watch TV? And even though my children know that that is never the answer for me, I always say no, basically. But he always tries, obviously. He's a child, so he will still try. So he said, Mom, I don't feel good. I really want to watch TV. Can I please watch Paw Patrol? Well, I said, you know what? Instead of watching TV, the weather is beautiful. Let's just grab our bikes and let's head to the park. We were out at the park for, I don't know, an hour and a half, I think. And he had a great time. And actually, when we got home, he said, Mom, this was so fun. Can we please do this again tomorrow? And he literally asks to go to the park every single day now, even though we go often. But he just loved going out to the park with his bike so much that he now asks for it almost daily. So make sure that your children will start to think about something different than just grabbing for the screen out of an automatic response. Because a lot of times what you see is children are kind of bored, and what do? They just grab the remote and they just turn on the TV and will think, you know what, let's just sit here, do nothing, and watch the screen. Well, instead, they actually do love doing other things, but this is just not something that comes up in their mind, because the easiest thing to do is sit on the couch and watch TV. So we will need to help them a little bit before they will actually think of that themselves. So in the beginning, it's gonna take a little bit more from you as a parent to say, okay, we are gonna do something different. So things like that are, like I said, going to the park, doing a fun craft, read a book, let them do something they like, let them think of something that they would love to do, maybe do a game. Things like that. There's so much that you can actually do with your children that don't necessarily require you. So when you read a book to them, it is obviously going to require you. You can also put out a table with a fun theme on it. Once I actually made a table that was farm themed, and I put out everything in our house that had anything to do with farms. And they really loved it. It was something that was kind of new to them, even though they were toys that were lying around. They hadn't touched it in a while, so I just put it on a table. I said, look, this is everything that is farm themed. Mommy's gonna read a book about farms. And you don't even have to do that. You can just say, this is a farm theme. Let's play Farm Life today. You can sit next to them. You can let them play. But just because it is a kind of different setting, we'll actually invite them to play. And it is also, I think it's actually called creating an invitation to play. If you look that up on Pinterest, you will probably find a lot of inspiration for invitations to play. And you can do farm, you can do space, you can do weather, whatever it is. There's a lot of things you can do. And just find things that are around your house that will help them get out of their boredom. Because a lot of times children are just bored and they don't really know what to do. And because they have been so used to just turning on a TV, that is usually what they gravitate towards, and that is what they will come up with first. But when you give them a little bit of a push into a different direction, they will probably love it just as much. It will be a lot better for their minds. And in my video about why you should limit screen time, I talk about all the reasons why it's perfect for your children, but it will actually do them way more benefit to their brain if they play with farm animals or go outside than watching a TV. So, but that is probably something that is common knowledge. So anyway, what I would also want to encourage you is try to think of days that you can actually have screen-free days. We started to incorporate those in the weekend because my husband is home and I really want our family to be focused on family. And even though they don't watch TV during the week, they are busy with other things. But in the weekend, we actually have on Sunday, we have our screen-free day. And that means that we as a parent don't use TV or screens or phones or whatever. So not only do they not watch TV, but we also don't use our phones. So we are fully focused on our children, on family life. We go to the park together, we go to the city, we go on a picnic when the weather is nice, things like that. We just focus on family, and it's so much more fun to do things like that than just sit in front of a TV with everybody. And we do that occasionally. I think I mentioned it in my last video, but we have a movie night, a series night, whatever you want to call it. We watch Little House on the Prairie every Friday evening before they head to bed. So we have pizza and then we watch TV, and that is super fun. I love it, but it's just going to be one episode, and that is our family screen time for the week. And it is enough. that is enough for the children, it's enough for me, and it's a fun thing to do as a family, but I don't want TV to be the center of everything we do, you know? So anyway, these are the tips that I would like to give you. And if you are on a journey to becoming screen free or to actually just reduce screen time, let me know in the comments, because I would love to know what you are doing to reduce screen time and why you actually decided to do that. So if you are on that journey, please let me know. And if you love content like this, if you love homemaking, intentional motherhood, I would love to have you as a subscriber as well. So feel free to hit that button and I will see you in my next video.